Henry Ford has rightly said, quality means doing it right when no one is looking. The theme for this session is quality and organizational excellence. Organizational excellence is not just about achieving great results, but also about cultivating a culture of continuous improvement, innovation, and collaboration, where every member is empowered to contribute the best towards the common goal. Healthcare, as any other service operation, requires systematic innovation efforts to remain competitive, cost-efficient, and up-to-date.
We are pleased to have Dr. Lallu Joseph, Quality Manager and Associate General Superintendent at Christian Medical College, Vellore. She was the Vice President, Operations of ResolveNet Coding Services and is currently a Principal Assessor of NABH and Secretary General of the Consortium of Accredited Healthcare Organization, India. Dr. Joseph is involved in training quality implementation across the country through NABH, CAHO, and Association of Healthcare Providers, India. Rather than being a work domain, quality management is something she is very passionate about. With this, I welcome our eminent speaker, Dr. Lallu Joseph, to share her expertise in the field of quality management. Please join us in giving her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me today for this session, and very interesting session by Mr. Mudit. Certainly the journey has been very impressive. And I'm also from the same fraternity. I'm a mechanical engineer too. I don't know why mechanical engineers are on stage in a healthcare platform today, but certainly engineering brings a lot of perspectives into quality management. That is something that I've learned. And with all the experience of implementing quality in healthcare, I feel there's lots that we can learn from the industry, particularly from engineering industry. And that's where quality originated. So my talk today is going to be on quality and organizational excellence or operational excellence. So I'm not going to talk accreditation at all today. Accreditation is just a byproduct. I'm very sure all of you agree that accreditation is a byproduct and it's not an end product. So with that, I will start my talk. Quality management in healthcare. I'm going to take you through different perspectives of what people think as quality management in healthcare. Okay? These are the very first things we hear. Quality management is all about accreditation. You have your NABH accreditation on top of your hospital, you think you have quality. How many of you agree to that? None? Brilliant. This is a great audience. This is typically how hospitals think. Accreditation, when you have it, it should solve all your problems. In fact, your problems become more. That's out of experience. Instead of having one form, you end up having 10 forms for documenting the same thing. Because with every accreditation exercise, every assessor gives you some non-compliance. To close the non-compliance, you keep on adding forms. And end of the day, you do not know what you are documenting where. So if you don't do it with the right intent, you are actually complicating the processes. Documentation and documentation. How can it improve quality? You ask a clinician in a hospital, this is exactly what the person is going to say. Unnecessary expenses. Just because you want something on top of your hospital, you are going in for this accreditation. It's just for nurses and support staff, not for doctors. When we started with our exercise in my hospital, we are more than 3,500 beds, and today we are 4,500 beds. When we go for our internal audits, it's only the nurses and the support staff. The doctors will start their rounds only then. So then you can't do anything about it. They're busy. Today it doesn't happen like that. The culture, it's all about the culture over a period of time. But certainly organizations that are going in for accreditation, this is the perspective. It's a show on the day of the assessment. Certainly it's a show on the day of the assessment. How many of you think that your hospitals actually glow on the day of assessment? No? Yeah, all walls are painted, protocols are put up, new policies come into picture. It's certainly true. Not my job, leave me alone. You ask a clinician, a cardiothoracic surgeon, he'll say, oh, that's my nurse's job in the ICU. Not my job at all. Who are these fellows to tell us what we have to do? That's typically what started in my organization. We are 120 years old. Who are these fellows to tell us what we have to do? Waste of time and resource. All of us have heard these statements? Certainly yes. So this is exactly the views of the healthcare fraternity in India with accreditation. This was maybe 10 years back. Things are slowly changing. We are moving from a nascent stage into a slightly modified version where the culture is slowly evolving to accept quality management as quality management and not accreditation itself. So, what are the reasons for this? The most important one is the lack of proper understanding of the principles of quality management. Because in other industries, it all started with the basic principles of leadership, their involvement in quality, the quality tools, how do you apply them, and then you go to accreditation. In Indian healthcare, it started with accreditation, and today we are talking about quality tools. How do we apply that? How do we take up quality improvement projects? So in Indian healthcare, it is happening in the reverse direction. But it's good, at least it's happening. Implementing without understanding the real intent and spirit. I can tell you umpteen number of examples. You know, English is a very funny language. I had gone for an assessment to a hospital and looked at the pharmacy. NABH standard at that time read, look-alike, sound-alike medications will have to be identified and stored separately. So this hospital did that. They had identified all the look-alike and sound-alike drugs, and they had stored them separately in one cupboard. Can you raise a non-compliance? They were very correct. They had identified, they had stored it. But what is the intent? Why is it done? You don't want the look-alike and sound-alike pairs to be together. They have to be separated. NABH became smarter. If the latest version, it reads as, the look-alike and sound-alike pairs will have to be identified and stored separately. So you have to understand why certain things are done. The intent is not understood. Often you end up having some consultants, NABH consultant or JCA consultants, who come and tell you, put up this protocol, prepare your emergency medications, have a crash cart, do this, do that, and you will get your accreditation. Without understanding why, people end up doing these kind of implementations. N number of experiences, and I quote this all the time. There was this hospital in Hyderabad where I had gone for an assessment. And for a bypass procedure, when I went into the theater, the surgeon was very skeptical about accreditation. And he said, these guys, their expectations, I don't understand at all. They want us to do this, do that, we have our surgical work. And then I slowly happened to see this mark on top of the right eye of the patient who was draped for a cardiothoracic procedure. So I was very inquisitive. Why is that on top of his eye? And later on, I was going on identifying why this is there. And I realized the quality manager of that hospital had moved from an ophthalmology setup into this cardiothoracic setup. And along with her, she carried the surgical safety checklist of the ophthalmology setup into this cardiothoracic setup. Typical copy and paste work without understanding the intent. And the surgeon was told NABH wants it. This is the problem, without understanding the intent. Not evidence-driven at all. It just goes because something is there put up in the standard. Trying to copy and paste. Every manual in this country is copy and pasted. I had gone for a hospital in Dindigul, South India, where they were shifting patients from Kanyakumari to Trivandrum. This was a manual from Kanyakumari that was copied and pasted by a hospital in Dindigul. They didn't even have a ED. It was an ophthalmology setup. They were transferring trauma patients, polytrauma. Believe me, these kind of things are existing all over the place. That's why people don't understand the concept. Policing rather than facilitating. You have your quality management team like a police force. They will go and say, do this audit, present it to the management, this is not there, that's not there. Who's going to accept? They will say this is all farce. So data is not taken seriously. Trying to be prescriptive. This is what NABH wants. This is what JCA wants. No, standards are not prescriptive. They are only guiding features. short-term benefits, just the logo of the accreditation. That's the problem as to why quality management is not viewed as quality management, but as an accreditation exercise. Now, who is this? Why is he like this? We know the healthcare system. Little kingdoms all over the place. Cardiology doesn't talk to cardiothoracic. Neurology doesn't talk to neurosurgery. Unit 1 doesn't talk to Unit 2. Unit 3 doesn't talk to the nurses. Silos. Everybody functions in silos in healthcare. Little kingdoms, and they're so territorial. They don't want anybody to look into what they're doing. And intrusion into autonomy. You know, if you go ask for some data, you ask them to monitor their surgical infections, it is his autonomy, it's the surgeon's autonomy. Who are you to go and ask? Threat. What will they do with this data? Are they going to be punitive? Is my performance going to be based on that? Very much unnecessary. So now you know whom I'm talking about here. All of us. I'm not talking about the doctors at all. It's everybody. All right? So that's the response that we get. And then you bring in these superheroes. Who are these superheroes? Any guesswork? Who? Quality manager, exactly. That individual is expected to set the system right. Put everything in place. There are hospitals where the non-conformances of the quality manager, of the assessment, decides on the performance appraisal of the quality manager. The poor girl comes running to me saying, "Ma'am, give me 30 NCs. If you give 60 NCs, they'll cut my salary." This is the level to which NCs are taken. They are expected to be knowledgeable. They are expected to be team players, team leaders, assertive, listeners, have perseverance, learner, work around the system, work with the system, communicator, a trainer, most important, a manipulator of data. Before the assessment, everything has to be zero. All right? And always smiling, should always remain calm, excellent public relations, impartial. Now, are we talking about a superhero here? Absolutely. Now, this basic problem is we expect our quality managers to take the job of quality management, when it is the job of the CEO and the entire fraternity in the organization. Typically, a quality manager without the support of the administration is this, a real joker. Let me tell you, cannot function in silos at all. When I started my journey, I have to talk a little bit about my journey. I came from as a vice president of a software company into this healthcare industry. So when I started, I didn't know the difference between EEG and ECG. I thought it was a spelling mistake. That's the level to which I was. And here I am in Christian Medical College, Vellore, taking over the quality management. Believe me, it was a real experience. I started learning from anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and today I can talk like a doctor, a nurse, a housekeeping person, anybody. I can audit APML, AML, ALL, you name it, I can do it. But the journey has been really, really, I must say, a learning experience, brilliant experience. What I have learned is you have to go with different groups of people in different ways, all with data, with evidence, with numbers, and that's been the strength. And the first time we started with our mock drills in our hospital, we said we'll do mock drill in theater. We went there, and only myself and our associate director, both of us were standing there. We initiated the mock drill, and everybody standing there, surgeons and all of them, we said, this is the protocol, this is how you have to do. Believe me, just the two of us ran out of theater when the drill was announced. Everybody else was very cool, composed, having their samosa and coffee. Even before the meeting, mock drill, samosa and coffee was served there. Nobody came out. Today, it happens like clockwork. 10 years down the line, or 15 years. It's a culture change. And there are so many beautiful experiences that actually teach you are not jokers if you do it with the right intent. And if you're working around people, working with them, trying to understand the system. So, quality is always viewed as a cost center or a profit center? Cost center? Certainly yes. But little do we realize, quality is a profit center. Because if you don't have good quality systems in place, then what you end up having is huge amount of wastage, loss, and the organization can never become a profit center by itself. So it all boils down to the leadership who is going to view this as a profit center and not a cost center. Why am I saying this? The basic definition of quality is to be understood. Quality, as per AHRQ, is doing the right things for the right patient at the right time, in the right way, to achieve the best possible results. Now, when we talk about right things, it's all about the right protocols being followed, the clinical pathways, the alignment of the medical nursing teams to what is being done to the patient to achieve best possible results. The outcomes are so important. Now, what is important as administrators is to understand that quality is meeting the stated and implied needs of your patients every time. Now, as a clinician, the patient views the clinician as a god. The outcomes are good, they are happy, perfect. With that, are they happy with your hospital? Clinical care is one, the technical acumen. The patients will never be able to assess the technical capability. A burst surgeon with a burst scar, he probably doesn't suture properly at all. But the outcomes are good, the patient will say this is the brilliant surgeon. He does not know what has gone inside. So he is not in a position to assess the quality of the surgical care that's provided to him. But what are they basing their quality on? I give this example always for the stated and implied needs. You are very hungry. In the morning you finish your rounds. You decide to have a dosa. So you run outside your hospital, go to a hotel and order for a dosa. Now the dosa comes in. Your stated need is only that dosa. So the dosa comes in and it's brilliant, crispy. But the boy comes with, scratching his hands here, no glove, no mask, nothing. The temperature in that room is about 27 degrees. The whole place is smelling of sambar. He just comes and throws the dosa there. And he came on time. Do you think you will enjoy the dosa? Why? You only asked for the dosa, isn't it? Your stated need is met. Then why are you not happy? Implied needs. You have not stated that you want him to smile at you. You want him to come on time and give you. You want him to be clean. You want 3-colored chutney there, piping hot sambar there. You did not specify that, but you expected all that from that simple dosa that you had. So therefore, my dear friends, please understand, it's all about stated and implied needs. The same applies to our hospitals. When a poor lady brings her child to your emergency department, all she's going to say is, do something. My child has been crying the whole night. You will do something. You will do the right thing, and the child may become better. But if your hospital is unclean, the nurses don't know what they're doing. They're just talking to each other, running around here and there. Nobody is talking to this lady. Nobody is explaining what is happening to this child. And end of the day, after 6 hours of wait in your emergency department, do you think she's going to be happy? She only stated, do something to my child. That's her stated need. But along with that, lot of implied needs are there. So to meet all these implied needs, you need a quality management system that is looking into every aspect of patient care. So your NABH standards, your JCI standards, think about that as all the implied needs of your patients, your workers, your government. So all that objective elements that you notice are actually the implied needs. You agree with me or not? Yes, the stated need is only care, excellent care. But all those, if you are able to meet, you are meeting the implied needs of your patients. Why are you hand washing? Why are you providing proper care for a patient in ventilator? Why are we doing that? Did the patient ask you to do that? That's part of a standard of care. You want him to get better. So you have all these protocols in place so that you make them better. If those are followed, then the outcomes are good. Then you have quality in place. So with that understanding, The 4 absolute principles of quality management are simple conformance to requirements. Every requirement is mentioned. That is what we call as your standard operating procedures. It's not the objective element of NABH. Keep NABH aside, JCI aside. Look at your hospital as an organization and all the protocols that you have put in place. Are you conforming to those requirements? The system for causing quality is prevention. It's all about risk management and preventing something from happening. Performance standards must always be 0 defects. That's close enough. We cannot have 0 defects, correct, in a healthcare setting. But at least we are striving towards that. The measurement of quality is the price of non-conformance. These are the 4 mantras. And I just want to touch upon this, where administrators, often the CEOs talk about quality. I have 10 people employed in my quality management system, so much of salary, I'm paying this, I'm paying that. For all of them, there's something known as cost of poor quality. There are 2 things. Cost of quality is equal to cost of good quality and cost of poor quality. If you spend on good quality, cost of good quality, then you will not end up having poor quality. So what is this cost that you spend for good quality? Prevention cost and appraisal cost. Preventing something from happening and also constantly auditing and appraising your system so that it's all put in place. If you don't do that, you'll end up having internal failure and external failure. I'll elaborate a little bit on that. What is this prevention cost? This is the cost that you spend to avoid problems. For example, your training for your nurses, for your doctors, surgical safety checklists, developing and maintaining a quality management system, paying the salaries, training expenses, your hand hygiene products, all those come under your prevention cost. And what is this appraisal cost? We are talking about the cost involved in monitoring your systems. You may be doing calibration of your equipment. You may be doing quality controls in your laboratory. You may be doing assessments of your own staff nurses, doctors, everything. You may be spending on accreditations, assessments, inspections. All those come under what we call as the appraisal cost. Now, cost of poor quality, what are those? Internal failure and external failure. Internal failure, let's say you did not do the right prick. You will end up redoing that 2-3 times, and that cost, time, wastage, everything is within this internal cost. Your equipment downtime. Let's say you don't maintain your equipment properly, and if there's a downtime, that comes under this. External failure, if there's a major problem, let's say there's a fire, there's an issue in your hospital, wrong patient operated, all that will be a major problem, isn't it? You end up paying for litigation. All those come under the external failure cost. So we have to understand, if we spend on cost of good quality, your poor quality costs will certainly come down, which is 80% is on poor quality if you spend 20% on good quality. So we also have to understand the poor quality has 2 facets. One is the hard cost and the soft cost. The hard cost is what is calculated. I have spent so much for this lawyer. I have paid so much compensation for this patient. We know that cost. But the soft cost is the brand image. You're losing the image of your organization. Look at what has happened to Amri Calcutta. After the fire, even today they are not able to really come up to that level as to where they were. So you have to understand there's a brand, there's an image. You lose your value in the market. So we all know, we have talked theory. We all know the actual situation. How hazardous is healthcare? How many of you think it's hazardous? No? Not for us, maybe for the patients. That's the reality. 1 in 3 go through some kind of an error in a hospital. So it's equivalent to bungee jumping. We get scared when we fly in an aircraft, but that's under the ultra-safe industry category, nuclear power plants and airlines. But as healthcare industry, we fit into the most unsafe industry. It is equated to bungee jumping. If you were a patient, it is like climbing on top of a cliff and jumping from top of that. It's as unsafe as that. With that in mind, look at all the accidents that happen. Are these new to us? Not at all. Every day we hear about it. This beautiful lady, Sridevi, when you look at her, what comes to your mind? All the plastic surgery she underwent? Then Yes, her mother was admitted, Rajeshwari Ayyappan, in one of the leading centers in Manhattan, Sloan Kettering, and she was operated for the wrong side of the brain in USA. And if this could happen there, what is the possibility of it happening here? Every single day we have problems. A chartered accountant, 32-year-old, who was operated for in the wrong leg. So these things, that's why Arnab Goswami is shouting on top of his voice. India wants to know from all of you, why are you killing this 92-year-old? I'll give you personal experiences. I had gone to this hospital in Bhubaneswar, a 14-bedded dialysis unit. And when I went in, I'm very passionate about the safety part of it. So I asked the technicians there, do you know how to evacuate the patients in case of an emergency? And they were blinking. So I said, okay, call for a code. So they called for the code. The fire team came immediately with the extinguishers. So I said, escalate it. Now the fire is not controlled. What are you going to do? 14 patients connected to the dialysis machines. What do? You just have to clamp the line. You have to make sure that the patient is made to sit up. He is ambulant patient. It's just 150 ml of blood that's in the machine. But the presence of mind of all those technologists was not there at all. They said, we'll wait for the blood to go back. Now, this is the protocol that we have in our hospital. We have not looked at it. We are doing it for a paper before the assessment. What do? We do a mock drill in our car park and tell all our beautiful assessors, we have done mock drill. Now, as surgeons, how many surgeons are here? None? Nobody will raise their hands now. Yeah. Abdomen wide open. There's a fire, earthquake. How will you evacuate this patient? Stitch, you have no time to stitch. Just pack a sterile cloth on top, move the patient out. Where will you move? Out to the assembly area? Where will you move? This is why Arnab Goswami is shouting. When there is a fire, we do not know what to do. Who takes control? What is the role of the anesthetist? At that time, it will be an anesthetist wife and a surgeon husband. Both of them will be fighting where to take. So what is the role of the anesthetist? They become the captain. They have to secure the airway. They have to make sure that the patient is moved out. Have you thought through which building you are going to take them? Can you take them to an alternate care site? Can you continue with the surgery there? Can you move them to another hospital? Do you have adequate ambulances there? What do? A patient on brachytherapy. So you wait for the radiation source to get over? What do? Think. A patient with bypass machine, a CABG patient with a heart-lung machine connected. What do? Run away. That's the problem. If this was industry, they would have gone through all these in set protocols. Come join all our programs. We are teaching you what to do in emergencies. You have to have stringent protocols in every situation. And every healthcare worker should know how to evacuate patients. What do I do for my patient? I am in theater. What do I do? Not call 3,000 and the fire team comes in. Let me tell you, this is where we are failing. And this is where we are talking organizational excellence. Quality is all about that. Moving you towards organizational excellence. And that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. These kind of accidents happen all the time. We know it. Freak accidents. MRI machine. People get stuck. There will be, the bullets also getting stuck. I believe there was one guy who went with a rifle into the MRI machine and his bullet also got stuck inside the MRI machine. No protocol at all to detect what is happening. There are huge amount of problems that we are seeing. So, my dear friends, my only request is for all of you to view quality management system as a stepping stone to operational and organizational excellence. Not just getting some logo on top of your hospital. If you do that, then your organization will grow. A quality management system, I'm not getting into theory part of it, but you must understand, the aim of the QMS is to prevent errors from happening. Ultimately, that's what we want. And when a hospital implements a quality management system, it must be customized to fit your organization. You cannot copy and paste my hospital's QMS into your hospital. That's the biggest mistake we are doing. It has to be customized, made perfect for your setting, and only then your setting will improve. So what are the characteristics of these QMS? Number one, customer satisfaction, your patient satisfaction. Improved quality, process improvement, increasing production and revenue, improvement in communication, evidence-based, employee engagement, and continuous improvement. Why am I putting up this slide? With your accreditation exercise, you actually have all these things focused upon. So, therefore, I would say your accreditation exercise is a stepping stone towards operational excellence. Your accreditation exercise takes care of all these things if you do it with the right intent and spirit, not forgetting the logo of the accreditation at all. So organization is all of us, everybody coming together with a common purpose. The purpose here is to provide excellent healthcare delivery to the clients who come to us. That's the organization. So this exercise of QMS or your accreditation should not limit just to getting the logo, but every individual, starting from your doorman to the chairman. Ideally, it should start from your CEO to the doorman. I'll tell you beautiful experiences of how leadership engagement can transition organizations. I'd gone for a hospital in Hyderabad. The first time when I went for the assessment, the ICU was crowded. And you know, when I asked the CEO, sir, why are you doing this? Why are you allowing so many relatives inside? He said, madam, nothing can stop them. We tell them, we put protocols, everybody wants to get there. And everybody is sitting outside and eating Hyderabadi biryani. So he said, you know the culture? I said, yes, I know the culture. I'm also from Tamil Nadu, so we know. But the next time I went there, it was spotless. 1.5 years later, I went for their surveillance. So I said, sir, is it because of the assessment that everything is cleared out? He said, madam, let's go there again. So I went there. Believe me, he had put systems in place like this. He told me. He saw this crowd going in, so he made a policy that any relative who goes in, only one relative is allowed, the second relative has to buy this pack, 300 rupee pack, which has gloves, mask, apron, everything. They have to wear that and only then they can get in. So he said that brought the crowd down. Then, listen to this. We Indians are very innovative. So he said suddenly the crowd was growing up and he noticed through his CCTV camera that one chap will come out, he'll remove everything and give it to the second relative. And then the third relative. So this cycle was going on. So he said, madam, I became smarter. So I told the security, when the relative comes out, he has to remove everything, put it into the dustbin, and only then he can go out. So this is Jugaad. This is what we are talking about, made in India. So these kind of innovations can only come if the CEO is deep-rooted into what is happening. If that person is not aware of what is happening, n number of interventions by your poor infection control nurses will go in for a real failure. Then you will only show data to the assessors. That's the problem. So you please understand that organization involves everybody, which means everybody gets involved in the transformational exercise. And excellence is all about reducing errors, flaws, waste, so that we reach that superior performance that we want, constantly looking at where we want to go. There are n number of awards to assess organizational excellence. We call it the Malcolm Baldrige, European Foundations, the Deming Prize. Any accreditation standard is also an organization excellence award to assess everything and tell you this is where you stand. Now, what are the common features of this? If you look at the Malcolm Baldrige framework, it talks about leadership. Everything starts with leadership. Any award on organizational excellence starts with the leadership. Then you have strategic planning, market focus. So look at the next one, European Foundation for Quality Management. Their framework also starts with leadership. So the leadership, when we say it's not just the CEO, that's again another myth. Every departmental leader, every unitary leader is the leader. It could be the head of your CSSD, head of your security services, head of marketing, and the leaders who are with him, his assistant managers, deputy managers, the unit 1 head of cardiology. Unit 2 head of cardiology. All of those also come under this. So please understand, the strategies to reach operational excellence involve these. Standardizing your process. Your accreditation takes care of it. Making sure your processes are standardized. Developing predictive analytics. Dr. Sanjeev talked about it. Everything is data-driven. Understanding where you stand. Forecasting. And then it becomes better. Integrating your quality and safety. Your accreditation takes care of this as well. Monitoring for compliance. Constantly auditing to see where you stand. And extend compliance to your suppliers also. Even what you buy, when you outsource, all those are also standardized. Now, do you see the linkage between accreditation, quality, and organizational excellence? Yes, because all these 5 components are integral to your accreditation exercise. That is why it is okay to say accreditation is the byproduct. It could be an end product for some organization, but also a framework for organizations to go towards operational excellence. I just want to highlight, if you could give me 5 minutes. Yes, I think I have 5 minutes. Couple of small changes that I have witnessed. Now, when we started with our exercise of doing audits in 2009, the first one we did was consent. And when we started the audit outside our theater, 120 patients wheeled into theater that day. Only 57% had consent for surgery. This was in 2009. And believe me, we are the leading organization in the country. We are ranked number 2, next to AIMS. All right, 57% compliance. So when we presented this to our medical board, they literally threw us out. They said, these are non-medical people doing, we write here, we write there, we write it in our progress notes, history sheet here, there, everywhere. Then our deputy MS was asked to do the audit. He did the audit and he found 48% compliance. This was presented again to our medical board. And this time, our medical board almost shouted at our director, you know, our PGs these days, they're pathetic. They don't bother. They are with their mobile phones. They don't want to take consent. They don't want to talk to the patients. Then our director said, without consent, no patient will be wheeled inside theater. The holding bay nurse is empowered to stop any patient without consent into theater. That's it. Overnight, compliance became 98%. Brilliant. Now, after that, we have worked for 10 years on multiple parameters of surgical safety in my organization. The surgical safety checklist has gone through 6 iterations. Today, I can proudly tell you not one surgery will be allowed to perform if the surgeon, anesthetist, scrub nurse are involved in the timeout process. The circulating nurse is empowered to stop the procedure if the timeout does not happen properly. So this empowerment is a key. And 6 times we have iterated, and what you will notice is, with 6 interventions, looking at our surgical site marking, X will be there, 0 will be there, tick will be there, sticker will be there, bindi will be there, everything was used for surgical site marking. Today it is standardized. Consent for every specific procedure has been written down. Not an easy exercise. I'm talking 10 years. After this, what was 4 sentinel events in 2001 for the last 4 years has been nil. Wrong patient, wrong site, everything has come down. Now, near miss has gone up because your system has become so perfect that it is able to capture before the patient is wheeled into theater. So these 6 interventions with data has clearly showed us that all these smaller interventions, incremental changes can do wonders to operational excellence in your system. Look at this. This is just a small data. We were not doing calibration at all before our accreditation. Now we have our calibration lab, NABL accredited. We do internal calibration of our equipment. With calibration of our equipment, we noticed that the breakdown has drastically come down. We looked at defibrillators, we looked at ventilators, we looked at ECG and ESUs. All of these have drastically come down. Look at the cost saving, because breakdown has come down because of good preventive maintenance and calibration. Overall, of course, all of us do this patient satisfaction. Now, this is something I want to tell you. It was an impediment that blood can never be transported through the chute system. When we moved to our new center, all our blood to OR is moving through the chute system today. Last 6 months, we have implemented this. And it's not been an easy exercise at all. Lot of small plug-in we had to play. But today, it is happening. What has it done to us? Wastage of manpower, huge amount of intending blood in emergency and not used at all, wastage of blood, all this has come down. Is it operational excellence? Certainly yes. So what I'm trying to tell you is, you look at data, you understand where you stand, you work on every single bit with the leadership, with the people involved, and you will be able to perfect your system. End of the day, I want to close by saying, whatever we do, whatever perfection we do, it is ethical dimension in what we do. That concept of a manipulator for a quality manager can never be done. It has to be real-time data. I completely subscribe to the father of quality management in healthcare, Avadis Donabedian. Please understand, system awareness and system design, they are very important for healthcare professionals. We are all healthcare professionals. But they are enabling mechanisms only. They are not enough. It is the ethical dimension of individual that is essential to a system success. That is the one that is essential for your organization's success and your operational success. Ultimately, the secret of quality is love. You have to love your patient. You have to love your profession. You have to love your God. If you have love, you can then work backwards to monitor and perfect your system. So all this is only possible if you have love and if you are ethical. If you have love for what you do, anything, it could be a sweeper, it could be an attender, it could be a CSSD technician, it could be a nurse, it could be anybody. Ultimately, with that love for the patient, you will be able to work backwards and correct and perfect your system. Looking at Symbiosis, I feel you have too much of love. It's beautiful campus, love for the environment. It's lovely green campus. And I'm sure whatever you're doing is with that love in mind, that you want to pass it on to the generations, pass it on to the young minds. And I really appreciate you for the love for the profession that you have. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
That was indeed an enlightening session coupled with real-life hospital experiences. The session has taught us how to look into the intent of the law and understand the purpose behind it, rather than being a blind follower. We are grateful to you, ma'am, for helping us broaden our thoughts on quality and organizational excellence. On behalf of everyone present here today, we thank you for taking your valuable time and addressing our delegates. Now I request Dr. Samita Jadhav, Director, Symbiosis Institute of Health Sciences, Symbiosis International University, to felicitate Dr. Lallu Joseph.